Good day, lovely people. What does it mean to be a patriarch or a matriarch? Well, to me, what it means is to be the archetype of a perfect mother or the perfect father. So when we look at Mother Mary, she's the archetype of the perfect mother in purity. And we look at Jesus, and that's the archetype of the perfect father. Well, none of us can ever be that perfect. However, we can do our very best to try to be those archetypes. And that's the whole understanding of Christianity, is acting out the archetype of Christ. And when I look at the world, the men that are being respected and are getting all the women and stuff, a lot of the time is to do with the wrong virtues. So the world's been voting upon the wrong patriarchs. And these archetypes get passed on after years of this false patriarch system, that everyone wants to be just like these greedy, powerful men. So then they try to act as that's the good father, one that can provide lots of money and just go and take control of everything. And that's what people see all the women flock to. So that's what they try to act out. And in that, the father archetype dies. The true archetype of the father. And that's based on a humility and a love with God. And most of those who are doing well in the business world are very good at taking advantage of other people. And a godly man does not do those things. A godly man provides the right love and support. A godly man listens to something above himself for guidance. How many of those have survived this war? In Isaiah, which they talk about after the great judgment, after Jesus has come and the body of Christ is rising up, as you can see, the truth is all coming out, where Christ consciousness is coming up inside of us. So the second coming is here. How many men have survived? It's a question we should ask. And I'm not talking about how many male humans. I'm talking about archetypes of good fathers. Men that will be good fathers, that will be the fathers of these next generation of awakened children. Well, in Isaiah 4, chapter 1, they talk about in that day, after the great judgment, after the war that we've been a part of for many generations. Isaiah 4. In that day, 7 women will take hold of one man and say, "We will eat our own bread and provide our own clothes. Just let us be called by your name. Take away our disgrace." Well, they've also taken away the security that these archetypes of men provided, which in return makes a woman have to be more like a man and has to take on all of those other tasks in return, taking them out of their maternal ways. We've never lived in a time where so many women went in and for their own careers and were told by their society, told by their external world, that was the virtuous thing to do. And it sure seemed like it at the time. And now we're at that generation when there's a lot of women that are doing very well financially. However, they're realizing they're in their 30s and they're hitting a wall. And what they really want to be is to be a divine mother. They want to bring life into this world. And the trauma that this generations have done to these women has made it so they had to be fathers and mothers for themselves. When people awaken, and everyone is awakening this time, women will know what a true patriarch is, and it's not what they have been voting upon. And they'll realize how little amount have survived the war. And they will have their bread, they'll have their own clothes, and they'll only want the last names of these men and the children of these men. A lot of people believe that polyamory or polygamy is probably not the healthiest way to go about. And to be honest, there's a lot of things that happen in these relationships where I believe are based upon hedonistic thrill and sexual drive rather than for the true reason that we would need to have polygamy or polyamory. And if we think about the Quran talks about this also, and I'll give context before I read this. This was at a time of war when many men didn't come back, and there was many widows and orphans, and this is the reason why they married many wives, was because it was a virtue to do so. So there is times that maybe we can argue that polyamory and polygamy will make sense. This is the line from the Quran. If you fear that you will not deal fairly with orphan girls, you may marry whichever other women seem good to you, 2, 3, or 4. So he's talking about the helping orphans. And they also at different parts in the Quran, they talk about if you cannot love all your women fairly, then you shouldn't have more than one, which also points at a higher consciousness. Polyamory and polygamy does not work unless there's a true understanding of thyself and the understanding of your partner and trust in your partner. So generally, I believe we should all just have one wife, one husband. However, we do have to know that when we make rules that a man should only have one wife, that is equality of outcome. And if we're doing things like equality of outcome when it comes to breeding, that slows down the evolutionary process. Why do women all want a certain man? That's because their genes want that. There's smells that are going on. That's like evolution trying to happen. The women choose what men to have sex with, so they are the factor of our evolution. So if they all want the same kind of man, then, and that man has the ability to have 2 or 3 women that he can love and take care of and truly be fair with all of them, and it would all work, then that would actually speed up the evolution of our species in a sense, because then we're actually following what has brought us right to this point where women go towards the powerful man that they want. I know a lot of men that are being held hostage by this system that is built around us. A lot of us believe that we live in a patriarchy. The patriarchy, or the ideas of these archetypes of the father, are not the right ones. And there is a dark father that rules over this earth. But down here on the ground, us, who has been in control in the families? It's been a matriarchy in the family, and even the law has made it that way, where a man can be held hostage away from what he wants and his morality and what he could be by the woman because of the laws that are going on. And this makes it so we live in a time where marriage is actually a sketchy thing to go into if you're a man. Because if you have a child with this person, if you have a property, or you have anything, they can leverage that all against you with the law. So it does not make much sense for a man to get married unless they can absolutely trust their partner. And I see in the world many people are not marrying people they know very well, and now they feel that they are in a hostage situation. And that's what can happen, and that's actually what the world we live into gives women power to do, is hold a man hostage, and which in return makes it really hard for any men to want to go out there and find a wife and make children. So again, all these men not in the world because they're playing Nintendo. And even if they did come out of this world, they're in their 30s and they were never encouraged to be a man. The likelihood of them being able to pull that man out in their 30s or in their 40s is not a good likelihood. My wife lives in Austria, and I don't even know what's going to happen in the future. I also don't want to hold her hostage with our relationship. I want God to speak in her life, and I don't want her to stay away from certain situations or these kind of things because she's worried about our monogamy. And that's a trust that we have with each other, is that we don't know what the future is to bring. And we don't want to possess each other's flesh. We'll always be married. We'll always be that important person for each other. One day, I hope we'll be back together and we can raise a child together. However, I also know that God's got plans for us all. And I think about these situations where there's many women over 35 and they haven't met a man that they can have a child with. And a lot of these women maybe aren't able to have children anymore. And they may just want to marry into a family with a child. And that also it's marrying into a strong man and into a strong woman that can have children and they can share in that family. It's not so possessive. And that's where community can be. And 3 legs stand stronger than 2. It means if any leg has to step up at any point, one has to go away to work, one has to do this, one has to do that, there's always 2 legs still standing. We have to know there is times where we have to let go of what we thought were right and wrong, what we thought were truth, and think about these situations. And we should also really ask the question, what are the virtues a man requires to truly have a successful polyamorous or polygamy going on? And to me, first of all, if the environment lacks good men, that's one of the things you can ask. The second thing is that man really able to be fair with all the women? Is he able to stay strong and firm and help make sure peace is always happening amongst his family? Does he have the virtues and the psychology to be able to manage the tension that's going to come up around these natural things that could happen? People can try these games. They can go into polyamory, but you know what? Polyamory isn't a straight line. It's not somebody in the middle. To me, the only way that you can have a healthy polyamorous relationship is a trinity, and that's everybody is connected to each one. They all trust each other. They all know each other very well. That's the only way that any polyamorous relationships are going to work, because there's no way that trust is going to come. Sometimes a woman is protecting their man to not let them go out with another woman, and so you can't call that possessive. So that's why they have to have good relationships. If there's 2 women and a man, then those women have to get along very well. They have to love each other just the same. Trinity is that. It's 3 legs standing together, all together. It's not 3 legs and one person in the middle. I'm going over to this girl, and these 2 just being resentful inside their minds. You'll find a lot of times you'll have one person that wants to have this polyamorous relationship, and the other person is scared that they might lose the other person, so they're kind of bullied in to going into these relationships before they're truly ready. And that's why, when you have more feminine people are going to be more passive and not really speak about their fears, and that's why really masculine people and assertive people, They have to know that about passive people, and they have to think more about being in their shoes and think maybe they aren't just, maybe they're just letting us do this because I want it so much. So is there many men left? True archetypes of divine fathers? Are we living in a time where polygamy and polyamory might be the necessary and the best path to take? Well, let me know down below what you think about this situation. And tell me if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said. Thanks again for joining me. I love you all, and God bless.